Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, May, 21st. And this is my first garden tour of 2023. So it's by no means complete. It's a work in progress. But for the past few weekends, I've been planting, trying to get it ready for this. I'm pretty excited. I haven't done a garden tour in quite a while. My garden is quite unique. It's down the side of a cliff. I live on less than half an acre in a development. My garden's, this is the 5th year I've been gardening, and I just keep adding to it every year. Working on what I've got, building the soil, and then adding new things. This past year we did have to end up rebuilding a couple of beds. We used recycled wood when I first started this endeavor, and the wood was pretty old to begin with. And so it was kind of falling apart. So my husband had to rebuild a couple of the beds. And that's what this metal is from, because he didn't want to reuse the metal when he built the bed. It was kind of difficult to try to maneuver the dirt. So we just decided to scrap the metal for one of them. And I'm still working on doing some things, but I'll show you as I go. But let's get into the garden tour. So I'm right where I was standing before. I did put a gate up around it last year because I had some issue with deer, and you know, it's working pretty well. I think it's keeping most critters out. But this right here is my sweet potato bed, and I've just been piling stuff. I add to it like a lasagna type bed, and I did plant up. I started my own sweet potato slips. I have some in the house right now that I bought. These, I just planted these yesterday, so they're looking a little bit rough. They got a little bit burnt too, but they'll bounce back. I had sweet potato plants that looked like this last year, put them in the ground, and within a week, they looked really good. If you can see, spread around some wine cap mushroom spores last fall, and as you can see, I've got some wine cap mushrooms that I'm super excited about, and that's a good sign when you see mushrooms growing in your garden. And see, like right there's one. I don't think that's a wine cap. I'm not sure what that one is, but I've got good soil. Okay, so let's start over on this side. So these two beds are full of different kinds of berries, raspberries, blackberries, mostly raspberries. And then I also have, I don't know if you can see, I've got a hammock pergola right up there, and all around the outside is more berry bushes. So I forgot to trim my berry bushes last year, so they're looking kind of wild, but that's okay. I'll still get berries. And then that is my peach tree that is still doing wonderfully. It did not get destroyed by the cicadas. So a couple years back we had the cicadas come through, and I was worried they were gonna, because they like young fruit trees, and this seems to be doing okay. And then if you come over, this is my arch trellis walkway. So I've just got trellises all the way down. And where do I want to start? So there's stuff that's planted, newly planted. I just planted this weekend, and it hasn't popped up. But I did notice this. Last year I had white currant, a couple of white currants planted right here, and they were exceptional tomato plants. It's a tiny little currant about that big, and it tastes so yummy. I would come down here, and I mean, it was full of tomatoes all summer long, and I would just fill my pocket with white currant, just like Napoleon Dynamite and his tater tots, and walk around with tomatoes in my pocket. But I noticed yesterday there's a pile of little tomatoes right here, and I thinned them down a little bit. I'm probably going to thin them even more. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's like 8 tomato plants right here, but I'm pretty sure this has got to be white currant because there were so many tomatoes that fell off onto the ground in this area. And I'm just gonna leave a couple of these grow, and I'll put a stake in here at some point, and because I did not start white currant this year. I get so discombobulated with garden tours because I don't really know where to start. the row above it, again, I planted a bunch of different tomatoes. So I probably have in my garden right now 200. I will count how many tomatoes I have planted in here already and put the number up on the screen. I'll put it like right here. It's a lot. Tomatoes, my favorite thing to grow. And if I can stick a tomato somewhere, I'm going to stick a tomato somewhere. I have plenty more tomatoes, and I'm probably just going to throw them this, there, and everywhere in the ground anywhere and see if they grow. Tomatoes are like the most resilient plant I've ever grown. You can really beat the crap out of them. They want to survive. I actually have a tomato, which one is that? And it constantly comes up in my driveway, like where there's like really crappy soil, and it thrives every year. I don't plant it. I just let some of the tomatoes fall every year and the seeds sprout. I love tomatoes. They're awesome. And I always have tomatoes all over the place. So that row is tomatoes. This is one of the new beds that was built. It's full of tomatoes. That's another new bed that was built. It's full of tomatoes. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up this hill, and then I'll come back down, and then I'll do the very center area last. Why don't we do that? So these steps are in the process of being redone, because again, they were, so you can see they're, some of them are falling apart. I just need to be very careful. So last year I planted something in each corner of this bed. I can't remember what it is, but it came back. It's a perennial, obviously. There's one over there and one here. And luckily enough, with redoing this bed, they survived. So I've got 2 rows of tomatoes. I've got a row back there, and then I've got a row right here in the front. And then I've got 2 cattle panels that I trained them to go up. These were freshly put in 2 days ago. So some of them are still looking a little bit because of the transplant shock, but within a week, they will look spectacular. As you can see, my husband rebuilt the bed in a different manner to try to make sure that it lasts a little bit longer than the last one. And he's got these boards kind of to keep because that was what was happening, was the bed was kind of falling down the hill because I am trying to garden down a very steep hill. This is what I have to work with, and I want to garden, and so I built one down the side of a hill. It's a lot of work. It's much more difficult than a garden that would be just on flat ground. I actually did build another garden at a family member's house so that I could plant more, that's right, tomatoes. There's probably 250, maybe more, 300 tomatoes planted on that, and it was a lot easier to put the dirt down to do all of that, because to fill these beds, I brought each bucket of dirt down to fill these beds with good garden soil, and I'm still doing it. I'm in the beds every year, and it is quite the task to bring them down, bring the buckets of dirt down the steps and put it in the beds. But I enjoy the work. I enjoy my garden, and it is what it is, and I have to work for it. I love it though. Okay, so moving right along, going up to the next bed. Those are crushed eggshells that got, but see, there's the steps that my husband's in the process of redoing. But this is the other bed that got redone. Again, it's the same thing, 2 long rows of tomatoes. So when I say I have planted 200, 250 tomatoes in my garden, that means I've planted 200 to 250 different varieties of tomatoes. Each one of these tomato plants is something different. I might have a couple of duplicates, but not very many. I know I have more duplicates in, I'm calling the other garden at my family member's house Materville. And I know that that has some duplicates in it because I had more room and I had run out of varieties to plant. So I just started planting other seedlings that I had grown of those varieties. But there's going to be a ton of variety, a ton of taste testing. I'm super excited. The only plant in here that is one that I grew before is the white currant that I just showed you. Everything else is completely new to me. If you didn't know, there are probably 25,000 different varieties of tomatoes. I currently own probably 1,000, so I've got a ways to go. I want to try them all. Okay, so I'm gonna head up here, but I have to like go around. I have to go the long way, so. Okay, so made it up here. I'm going to very carefully take myself over. This bed right here also needs to be redone, but it's probably not gonna get done. The walkway and everything needs to be redone. Oh, little squirrel jerks are taking my strawberries. That wasn't even ripe. This is my first strawberry patch I planted. As you can see, lots of strawberries, lots of gorgeous flowers. I really haven't had any ripe ones for myself yet, but there's definitely lots of fruit, hopefully soon. Now I have 2 strawberry patches. I have a longer bed over on the other side, and in both of those I planted asparagus. So I planted this asparagus, I think this is its 4th year or 3rd year. No, it's its 3rd year. So I did get a handful of asparagus spears this year that we were able to eat, and we just ate them fresh. Like, they were so good. Okay, so now I'm gonna head up the steps to the top row. And so right here I have some purple opal basil, another strawberry. Oh, we're gonna have to do something about that. And I have another row of tomato plants that I'm growing. This isn't a cattle panel, this is just like some cheaper fencing, and it worked just fine last year. But like I said, I put tomatoes everywhere. I've got a row of tomatoes right here. And then this, I planted a few things of kale and lettuces. This is I think it's a butter crunch lettuce from M.I. Gardener. And I am not harvesting this. I am waiting for it to go to seed so I can save the seeds from it. It was the only one that survived. We had a really cold snap around Christmas time, and it killed most things that were in here, but this survived, and it was planted, gosh, I can't even remember how long ago it was planted, probably September of last year, and it's just now getting going. And then back behind there I have melons. I have a watermelon, and then I think those are 2 cantaloupes. And then I have I just planted that last night. And then right here is my a patch of parsley I planted last year. So this is last year's parsley patch. Again, some more parsley in this bed. It's starting to go to seed. So in this bed, I have a couple of tomatoes that I started many weeks ago. I tried some gadgets. I did a video on if you could start tomato plants earlier. And this one is Orange Crush, and I used Cozy Coats over this one, and I used Cozy Coats over that one for a while. Well, the Cozy Coat fell over, and I thought the plant was dead. I covered it with a bucket one night, and it's not dead. It's trying to come back. I mean, it looked really dead. There was a whole lot of dead foliage on it, but all of the suckers are reviving it. And that one is Esmeralda Golosina. So I'm super excited about that because that's the only one I had. But the Cozy Coats are the winner, I would say, because look, we've got flowers on these plants already. So I will have some tomatoes soon. Let me see here. Is there a little baby tomato? So there's the flower. It's all shriveled up, and then inside, yes, it got fertilized. Little tomato. And we've got more little buds just starting right there. I'm super excited. And then I planted up here a bunch of different kind of squash, zucchini. I'm not quite sure what else here. There's buttercup squash. This right here was something that I planted back in September, October. It is a purple top rutabaga, and I want to save seeds from it. So the little flower buds that are at the top here, So when something goes to seed, you'll see it shoot up like this center stalk right here, and then you'll see a bunch of these flowers, and then these flowers turn into these little, like, look like bean pods, right? And then when these get all dried up and crusty, like, they'll dry up, you'll feel them, they'll feel really dry. Inside each one of these pods, I don't know if you can see how it's like a little bubbled, there's a seed. So I just let this go. I let one of them go. I had a bunch of them planted here, and I let one go to seed because I'm going to save the seeds from it. Same for this right here. This was a cabbage. I'm going to save the seeds from it. So as you can see, I'm going to have a ton of seeds. So I'm just waiting for these little pods to dry up, and that's where the seeds to a cabbage is. A cabbage, kohlrabi. This is sort of what most brassicas, kale, lettuce, sort of lettuce looks like this as well, but this is where the seeds are hidden, in these little pods. But you just got to wait till they get real dry. So that should be a couple more weeks, 2-3 more weeks. But you can see there's just so many. One cabbage plant produces hundreds and hundreds of seeds, as you can see. I've got some spinach here. I trimmed this back to the ground just a week ago. And then I'm letting these back here go to seed because I'm going to save the seeds from the spinach. I planted in the corner here. I did a bunch of winter sowing jugs this year, and I'm just dotting those things all over the place. So this is like my blue balloon flower. I'm actually new to growing a lot of the things that I winter sowed this year, and so I'm not really sure how stuff grows. I pay attention the first time I grow something and really like look at it and watch it and see what happens, and then after growing it for like one season, it's in my memory, and then I kind of know a better place to put things. Now I could just go on the internet and research and figure it out at the beginning, but I think for me at least, until I actually watch it and hands-on with it, I just don't absorb that. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to absorb that information. But so I'm just putting things anywhere and everywhere, and I'm just going to observe them and see how they grow. And then next year I'll kind of know whether I want to regrow them or if I want to put them in a different place. And then I have this little trellis type thing going on right here with just a piece of fencing, and I've got I've got I really wanted to grow silver slicer cucumbers this year, and I've traded a couple of times for it, and then I also had someone who was so kind who gifted me some more seeds. So I think I'm actually going to extend the trellis and grow some more silver slicers. But I had an issue with squirrels a little while ago, but I put down cinnamon, and I think because I put down the cinnamon powder, and they're leaving these be. But look, you can start to see this one's starting to get a true leaf, so that's cool. And so I'm hoping that they'll just grow up this trellis. So you can see when stuff sprouts, I'll mulch around it with some this is like double chipped or triple chipped wood mulch. I really like it. It holds the moisture in, but I have not mulched the whole thing yet. It will eventually get mulched, but for now I'm just trying to mulch around the seedlings to make sure that they stay moist. And then, you know, once my entire garden's planted and I have more time, I can mulch. And I'm just trying to, like, the mulch keeps the weeds down too, and I don't really have to weed hardly at all in my garden beds. But this is where I think I'm going to plant some more silver slicers. But over here I have, what do I got? Some Sweet Glow watermelons. So I haven't grown watermelons or melons up in this area before, or squash. So I'm just trying someplace new and seeing how they do. Over here, this is all cilantro that went to seed. I have saved a ton of cilantro seeds already, so I don't really need to save any more, but I might. We have finished with these beds on this side. There's tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. And then over on this side, this is the middle row of garden beds that I've got. Last year I planted black snapdragons. They came back. Look how lovely they are. Beautiful. They're almost about to flower. I love snapdragons. I love snapdragons. I love foxglove. I love lupine. Anything that shoots up this like gorgeous center, I just love them. But in this bed, I have, again, a entire row of tomatoes. And in the front of it, I'm planning on putting a bunch of marigolds and basil. I grew a couple of different kinds of parsley this year in winter sowing jugs, so I stuck them right here. This is moss curled, and this one is green pearl. All right, turning around. This bed right here is, again, a nice row of tomatoes. And then I winter sowed celery in a jug, and I wanted to see if I could transplant from winter sowing it into the ground, and it looks like they're doing okay. So I just did like the clump method. That's some mammoth basil. Again, I'm just putting basil and stuff everywhere. So I just clumped little, so these are the celeries all along here. This is a different kind of basil. Oh, that's pretty, that's doing really well. What kind is that? I know I have a tag here somewhere. And I have just mulched around the tomato itself, but eventually this whole thing will get mulched, and that'll keep the weeds away. There's, oh, I need to make sure my tags stay in here so I know what's what. Old ivory egg. Okay. Down to the next bed. So I planted, I'm not sure, is this, I think it's Shasta daisy. I feel like it's Shasta daisy I planted right here, and it didn't really do anything last year, but looky there, it's coming back. And again, so that's Shasta daisy in that corner, and then all in this bed again with the cattle panel trellis, tomatoes all along here. And in front of that, I winter sowed in a jug carrots. And I wanted to see if I could winter sow carrots and then transplant them into the garden. And so they're actually doing pretty well. So these were transplant carrots. I've never transplanted carrots. I've always grew them from seed. But it looks like they transplant pretty well. So most of them survived the transplant. That's very interesting. And then right here, I've got a little patch of Chinese sweet basil. So I've got my basils kind of separated throughout my garden because I'm planning on saving seeds. I like to trade seeds with people. There are these really awesome Facebook groups. They're called obsession groups. There's tomato obsession, pepper obsession, flower obsession, gardening obsession, mushroom obsession, but you can trade. They're super awesome groups. So I'm planning on saving lots of seeds from lots of different things and doing a lot of trading this winter. That's the fun thing about gardening, is even in the winter, if you save your seeds, you can have fun trading. So go check those Facebook groups out. You won't be sorry. Start saving your seeds from your tomatoes and your peppers and anything else. And then you can enjoy yourself through the winter trading and getting new kinds of flowers, new kinds of tomato seeds. It's a lot funner than it sounds, trust me. And you'll become addicted to it. This is so lovely when it's full of tomatoes, I tell you. But coming down, so those are the 3 middle row beds. And then the 4th one here, I put beans and okra. So this is gonna be beans and okra. Last year I grew okra here. I had like 2, I think, okra plants, 2 or 3 okra plants, and they did really well. This bed here is really not that great of soil yet. I'm working on it. But as you can see, it's still pretty rocky. I clean out the rocks as best I can every year. But, you know, one thing at a time. But the beans seem to be doing okay. I've got, this is Vermont Bush cranberry beans. So I just put some of these beans here, doing okay. And then I planted some more, what are these? I planted aduki beans. I think I planted those just a few days ago, so I don't see anything popping up yet. Another one, another snapdragon. There's some over there. So the snapdragons that were up there, the seeds fell or blew, and I'm just letting some of these things just live and let live. So this is the okra. This is the only okra I'm growing this year. It's called Motherland okra. It's a pretty rare type of okra. And so if you don't know, okra seeds can cross-pollinate pretty easily. I'm not quite sure how far away you have to separate them to keep from having cross-pollination. Because I don't have a huge garden or a ton of space to separate okras, I decided that because this was very rare, a very dear friend of mine gifted me these okra seeds. And so I decided, and she told me that they were a very rare variety that it's hard to get. I believe I saw them on Baker Creek, and for a pack of like, I'm not sure if it was 20 or 25 seeds, it was like $10. So she gifted me a bunch of those seeds, and so I've got them all along here growing, and I am going to probably eat a little, but I'm going to save, let the pods dry up, save the seeds for them at the end of the season. That way I can trade the very cool okra motherland. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think I have a few other sprouts popping up. Let's look. Oh, here's one right here popping up. So hopefully I'll get a few more sprouts. But if not, 2-3 plants that are here will most definitely grow me enough, because in one okra pod, there's probably like 100 seeds. In this corner, I have a nasturtium seedling. That's it for this bed. So this bed was just okra, obviously snapdragons, and beans. So we're gonna head back up because I've got another row. This is the right side row. Now this row is not quite finished, as you can see. It's a work in progress. We started this bed last year, but then, you know, stuff happens and we just kind of stopped the progression of building it. And I have got to dig this bed out. This is all shale, not good soil, so I have to dig it all out and then refill it with good soil. So once I'm got my garden completely planted, I'm in that kind of waiting period where you're just waiting to harvest and start canning and preserving and all that. That's when I'll start the work on the new garden beds. And my husband, you know, he was going to start on these, but then he had to rebuild those two over there, and he's got to rebuild the steps. So it's just, you know, we're just trying to take one day at a time, do what we can, still enjoy our lives, and the garden will come as it comes, and I'm just enjoying what I have. It's still a really big garden, and to add to it, it's a lot of work, but I want to, and I want more beds, and I want more space. It will eventually get done. All right, but we're gonna head back up to the beds that are finished. I filled these beds with mostly peppers. They're all sweet peppers. I'm keeping all the sweet peppers at my house, and then I took all of the hot peppers over to my family member, over to the other garden plot, Materville. And if you didn't know, you have to, again, separate your hot peppers from your sweet peppers if you're trying to save seeds, because hot peppers will readily cross with your sweet peppers. So if I were to grow hot peppers and then save these seeds from my sweet peppers, they're most likely probably would be hot, not sweet. So I've kind of got everything separated. I'm only growing sweet at my house. I'm growing hot and sweet over there, but I'll only save the seeds from the hot ones. Okay, so again, this walkway needs to be redone, so I'm just careful when I'm in here. Careful where I put my feet. And then this here is red Russian basil that I let go to seed. I want to save the seeds from it. Again, this is what seed pots look like. And then I planted behind it a new kind of basil that I'm pretty excited about. I think it's called Dazzling Blue from Baker Creek. So I've got, I don't know, 8 starts of that over there. And then again, more sweet peppers and more sweet peppers. So these used to be my cold frames. I had plastic on them, but the plastic with the sun and the winter and all that, and also I would not recommend using this kind of, I would use the gray PVC piping, because this, I think, makes the plastic brittle and fall apart. So I think what I'm going to do this year is when winter comes along, I've got these really big clips that I will just clip the plastic to these, and then when summer comes I can just unclip the plastic and then I can use the beds. So last year I didn't use them, but I've got a lot of plastic left over from building the new greenhouse that I should have enough plastic that I can cover my cold frames again. A tree fell and kind of broke them a little bit, so that's a work in progress too. I need to kind of retape these and fix these up. There was a tree right over there and it came crashing down on my greenhouse and my chicken coop, so we had to like redo all that stuff this year. It was a bit of a mess, but like I said, one thing at a time, things are getting done. So this is my other strawberry bed right below my pepper beds, and it is full of strawberries. And then these are second year asparagus plants. I just planted them last year, so I did not harvest anything from any of those, but there's quite a few popping up. Again, lots of strawberries on the plant, but I haven't gotten a ripe strawberry yet. Heading down to the next bed. I planted a bunch of squash. This is a sunflower that I started from seed and then transplanted. This is all different kinds of squash down here. Zucchini. These are some starts I got at a nursery. Spineless beauty zucchini. A lot of this stuff I started from seed, like Zapiolita, red curry, another Burgess buttercup, another red curry, Cavili, Costata romanesca. This in here is not silver slicer, cocoa. This one is a cocoa zell, so you can see I planted these from seed. I planted a bunch more, but there's one trying to come up. It's still got its little seed cap on it. Oh, something decapitated it. I'm obsessed with squirrels or birds or something, but there's another one trying to pop its way out of the ground, and another one trying to pop its way out of the ground. So I should have some really cool cocoa. I got these seeds gifted from a friend. You meet a lot of really nice people on those obsession groups. And this was kale that I planted last October, and it's doing pretty good. I think it's just now going to seed. At least this one is. This is, I believe it's Tronjonshuta. Look how big. I actually pulled the biggest leaves off of it yesterday. They were double this size, but these are really big leaves. My pet rabbit loves kale, so I grow a ton of different kinds of kale for her. I grow a ton of different kinds of spinach for her. But these are some of these plants. I'm probably just gonna leave these go here. And then if I turn around, looking down the hill, this is the only other bed that I have left that's done. This has all my garlic. So this is, I can't remember what type of garlic is, but this I'm super excited about. These huge things are elephant garlic, which isn't actually garlic. If you didn't know, elephant garlic is actually a leek, but tastes like garlic, so people call it elephant garlic. But it's got these giant bulbs. I'm so excited for my elephant garlic. But then over here I have red onions and sweet onions. And they're all doing really well. I need to trim the tops off of these and take off the scapes that are popping up. But you can see over here, I harvested a bunch of the onion tops, and then I chopped them up and freeze them, and then I'm gonna harvest a bunch more. So my onions right here, I'm actually going to cut the tops off of them, and then I'm gonna dry them, and then once they're really good and dry, I'm going to pulverize them into a powder that I can use for seasoning. So if you didn't know, you can use your onion tops like you would, they taste just like green onions. So when you go to the store and you get those green onions, that's for different dishes, it'll call for green onions. That's what onion tops taste like. We like corn dip, or it's called cowboy dip. I think it's called cowboy dip, cowboy caviar, and we like that, and it calls for 8 green onions chopped up. So I just use my onion tops and they hold up well in the freezer to use throughout the winter. Oh gosh, guys, I feel like this garden tour is going to be a long one. Hope you're enjoying it. All right, so I'm heading back down, and now we're going to do the center here and what's over on the other side. All right, so I'm gonna go back over to the beginning and we're gonna walk this way. Okay, so there's the sweet potato bed, and I'm turning around, and here's the trellises. So I'm just gonna do the left side, and then we'll come back and do the right side. So I've got, like I said, over here, those are probably white currant tomato plants that I'm letting go. I planted a Cosmo in the corner there, and then I planted, this one is called Cajo watermelon. So I just planted these up yesterday. And then these are snapdragons that I winter sowed in a jug. These are Orange Wonder snapdragons. I'm so excited for these new snapdragons. And snapdragons are so easy to propagate. If I wanted this snapdragon put somewhere else, all I would have to do is like pinch this off, just break this off and stick it in the ground, make sure it stayed watered for a few days, and I've got another snapdragon plant. It's literally as easy as that. That's why I love snapdragons. They're so easy to move around on your property if you want them someplace different. So I'm collecting any kind of variety of snapdragon that I can find. Here I planted Sharon Tay's melon. So what I did is I spread down some compost, that's what that is, and eggshells and stuff in here, and then I planted the seeds directly in the compost. Because the compost retains moisture a bit more than my garden soil, so my garden soil can get a little bit like sandy, and then you can see how rich the compost is. So I like to plant my seeds right into a handful of compost. I haven't been incredibly successful growing melons on my property. I keep trying every year. I trade for seeds, different kinds of melons. I got a couple of Kajari melons last year. The first year I grew, is it Tigger melon? I got some of those, but like the larger cantaloupes and stuff, or the larger watermelons, pumpkins, I'm not the greatest at, but I'll just keep trying. So I put stuff in different places to see if maybe it's where it's at in my garden, because I'm kind of in this like trench type situation where there's no trees here, but there's a bunch of trees behind me. So once the sun gets to be right here, this is kind of shaded. So I don't know whether it's lack of sun or something like that. I mean, it's pretty bright right now, but I digress. I just keep trying. One of these days I'm going to grow melons. I actually put some melon plants and pumpkin plants over at the other garden plot over at Materville, and we'll see if they grow better there. I don't know. But I like to try to grow them on trellises to save space. But that's what's growing here, melon. Moving right along. And then in this little, so there's the Sharon Tay's melon, and then moving over to this, I've got some honey boat delicatata squash trying to grow. So I'll have 2 of them here, well 3. I will thin this down to 1 at some point once I feel like the roots have gotten established. These were just planted a week ago, so. And then I've got a different kind of Oriental lantern snapdragon. Again, I winter sowed this. Winter snowing snapdragons, thumbs up. And then I've got another Cosmo there. And I forgot to show you up in this bed, I put Peach Melba nasturtium. That's a nasturtium right there. All right, so there's the first set of steps. And again, another type of snapdragon. I'm growing all the snapdragons. If you have a snapdragon that you don't see in my garden, please reach out. Let's trade. This one is Cherry Twist Snapdragon. And then on this trellis, on this side of this trellis, I have again honey boat delicatata squash. I didn't realize I planted up 2 trellises of that. Or wait. No. So I've got one right there. Is that what that is? Okay, so I've got that there, and then I've got it on a trellis. We'll see which grows better. But I planted that just yesterday, so it's not popping up. Here's a couple of more, those Cosmos or Zinnias, I can't remember. Here I've got my Armenian yard-long cucumbers. So I've got one popping up, and then again, I have an issue with things wanting to decapitate my seedlings. So the cinnamon helps, but it's not foolproof. But I'm gonna come down once I'm done this garden tour. I'm gonna cinnamon everything again, hopefully. But here's another one trying to pop up. There's the one that was decapitated by a bird or a squirrel, I don't know. But I just keep trying. So I usually sow seeds pretty heavily, like 2 to 3 times more plants than I actually want. That's how many seeds I will sow, because I have such an issue with things coming down and digging up my seedlings. So I plant things heavily. This one here is Be It Alpha. So I've got quite a few seedlings coming up of the Be It Alpha cucumber. There's one right there. Looks like it's a birthday. This one's getting pretty far. And another flower. I literally am growing so many flowers and I'm putting them everywhere because I have a pretty big issue with pollination. I don't know if it's again where I'm kind of at, but I'm really trying to bring in the pollinators here. Let them know, hey, there's a garden here. There's tons of flowers. Please come and get me. So I'm really trying to grow a bunch of different flowers. I've got borage in here. If you know of any other flowers or anything that brings in pollinators, please let me know in the comments. I will try to trade for seeds of those. And then on the trellis right beside there, at least in front of it, I have, what kind of beans are these? I put these beans in last week. Bumbo beans. And again, like right here, I planted white borage. I'm just waiting for it to come up. But I'm not sure if I planted this trellis. I did. There's something popping up here, but I don't know what it is because I didn't put a tag. All right, so it's gonna be a surprise. I think it's some sort of bean. I really do. Okay, so, and then on this side of the trellis, I showed you this before. This is just a bunch of shale. It needs to be cleaned out before I can plant in it, so there's nothing there. So if we keep going, I'm gonna turn back around here. And this is my new, I just got this at Tractor Supply today. It's a wind spinner / wind chime, but the butterflies spin. Oh, isn't that pretty? I loved it. Love it, love it, love it. So I'll wait to hang this up so we can actually hear. I enjoy crafting. I like DIY crafting, making things. So this year I'm growing a bunch of different kinds of gourds, because if you go on Pinterest, you can find how to make all kinds of stuff with gourds. So I am growing a bunch of different gourds. So on this trellis in this corner, I have, it's called Martin House gourd. And the shape of this gourd, I'll throw up a picture of what I want to make with that gourd. It's like a chicken. This one on this side is miniature bottle gourd, and I want to make wind chimes with these. This one here were seeds I traded for and started from seed. Tennessee dancing gourd. So I've got a few of those plants right here. And then I've got a couple of Topolino sunflowers. On this trellis, I have Kazakh melon. So there's a few seedlings of that. And then these are Jolly Jester marigolds. This is a Guatemalan blue squash. It's looking a little rough, but it'll bounce back. And then a Tahitian squash. These are my leeks that I planted last October, I believe it was. And so I'm trying to let them go so I can actually get some leeks. They're not ready yet. Hopefully soon, because I did plant on the trellis behind them a Conchita gourd. And this gourd is, she said it was the competition strain. And if you look at this gourd, it's insane. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a walking stick. But I've got a couple of those I started from seed and then transplanted, and they are looking pretty good. I have a Bloody Mary nasturtium right there. And then on this trellis, I have Table Queen winter squash. So those haven't popped up. I just planted those. In the corner, I have a nasturtium. And over in this corner, I have another sunflower. And then I have jelly melon, which is starting to pop up. I just planted these last week. There's a melon. Behind here, I just dotted along here a bunch of sunflowers. So here's another one that's popping up. And then this is something that I planted last year from my winter sowing jugs. I don't remember what it is, but it's doing great. It's looking like 4 times the size that it did last year. On this trellis, I have lemon drop. What is this? Is this a watermelon? Yeah, lemon drop watermelon. I just planted these seeds yesterday, so nothing has germinated yet. And then another snapdragon. This is apple blossom snapdragon. This is another thing I winter sowed. This is the rampicante squash. And I started from seed a while back, and these are my transplants. And then I also came down with seeds, and I put some seeds in the ground, so you can see they're just starting to pop up right here. But last year, this squash was insane. I had it planted on this trellis right here, and it was just all over the place. It was reaching over to my tomato plants. It had crawled all the way over to my sweet potato patch. It was incredible. There's another sunflower, it looks like, popping up. I need to plant something in this corner, probably sunflowers. This is my one and only, oh my goodness, I started seeds for a bunch of different kinds of ground cherries, and this was the one and only strawberry ground cherry that seemed to make it this year for me. So I grew a variety last year, Lowen family heirloom. I didn't much care for it, so I just wanted to try a different variety. So far this one looks like it transplanted pretty well. We'll see how this one tastes. I'll do another taste test. Again, this was something I planted last year. I don't remember what it is, but it's doing really well. This is, what is this one? I planted on this trellis Christmas lima bean. This will be the first time I've ever grown lima beans, so I'm pretty excited about that. The beans were so pretty. Some more flowers, Cosmo, sunflower. These are some more of my black snapdragons that I planted a little bit of them here. And on this trellis, I have Delice de la Table, tabla or whatever. See how I thickly sow seeds, and I will thin these down to probably like 6 on the trellis, maybe even less. And another Cosmo in this corner, and then I have Marina de Chunga squash here. Again, like I have a couple plants, I'll thin it down to 1 at some point. And then again, a row of tomatoes, just tomatoes everywhere. So I heavily amended these beds with compost, because I feel like the tomato plants in these 3 beds on this side where I planted them did not do as good as all the other tomatoes. It could be the light, I don't know, but we'll see. I overwatered last year for one thing. I know that, so I'm not going to do that this year. I'm just going to mulch heavily and try not to water very much, because I think I washed away all the nutrients by overwatering. But I spaced the tomatoes a little bit further apart as well. Usually I have them about a foot apart. Now I have them about 18 inches apart. But again, just so many different kinds of tomatoes. Dark Star, the Thong. I can go through all my varieties if you want, but that would be a video that's never ending. Lemon Liana. This one is Michael Pollan, or Pollen. Then in this corner I have pink doll porcelain pumpkin. So my thought is that hopefully this, because last year I had something planted here and it spilled over into the walkway and just grew like that. So I'm hoping that that's what this one will do. It's a fairly large pumpkin. In this corner, kind of the same thing. I'm hoping it spills over. North Georgia Candy Roaster. And then more tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes. And then I decided yesterday that I had so many micro dwarfs left over, and I have a lot of space left in my garden, so why not just shove them everywhere? So these back behind here are micro dwarfs. This one is Tina, Dark Stripe, and this one is Baby Micro. I have pretty much everything labeled except these 3. But in front of those are the bigger tomatoes. These will only get to be like right that high, so I don't think it'll make a difference. I still have a few more that I'm probably going to plant, but all my tomatoes transplanted fantastically. And in this corner of this bed, I have a cocozelle squash, another cocozelle, another sunflower, more tomatoes, Mama Irene, orange cream, Bear Creek. And then as I get to the end here, this is where I planted all the micro dwarfs back behind here. So they're sort of like in the middle, but like they're not going to take up that much. Look at this one, it's already got a little flower. Hello. Ah, chocolats. I just did a taste test on that. It's pretty yummy. But Mariana's Peace. This one is Willa's Caribou. Got Aztec Micro. Just Sleeping Lady. I've got a couple Sleeping Lady micros. There's one. There's one. Micro. So I still need to mulch around these micros because I just planted them yesterday. But lots of micros in this bed along with indeterminates. And we'll see how those go. This here is some sort of squash. I don't know where the tag is, so I don't know what it is. Okay, and then if you keep going, this is another one of my lasagna beds or my Hugo culture where I just threw a bunch of stuff on the bottom of the bed, garden soil on top, and then I just keep layering compost on top of that. Last year, this was my potato bed. I didn't want to grow potatoes in it again because I don't feel like the yield was that great for me. I may end up doing it again, but I don't know. But I had a bunch of potatoes pop back up in the bed, and then I just transplanted them into these grow pots. So I have a bunch of grow pots this year. I didn't have these last year, and I'm trying out a bunch of different things in grow pots. So again, I've got tomatoes in grow pots, of course. So I bought 3 bags of potatoes from Walmart. And so those are those 3 bags. And then all the rest of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, these 4 grow bags are potato plants that popped up in here, and I didn't want them there, so I kept moving them to, so there's like 6 plants in each of these. I just planted another one yesterday. I'm hoping that growing them this way I have a better yield. We shall see. I'll show you the grow beds on this side of the potatoes first. Put in a bunch of pepper plants, different kinds of pepper plants. I traded for all different kinds of pepper plants. This one right here are my hybrids. So this is a super sweet heavyweight, and then a jumbo stuff. They're doing pretty good. Chocolate Beauties in here. And then I've got this one's tomatoes, Purple Rain. I'm not sure if this is a micro dwarf or a dwarf. I have to look that up. I can't remember. But I have some of the dwarfs in these pots. I think I put mostly dwarfs. More peppers. Tomatoes. So these are dwarfs. Like Grinch is a dwarf. Sweet Splash Electra is a dwarf. Mr. Snow is a dwarf. Then I've got in here, I've got Spoon and Orion. Oh, these 2 I'm super excited about, and they're looking a little rough, so I might need to fertilize them. Uluru Okra. This is one I'm super pumped about. I think I've got it planted, a couple more planted somewhere else. These are Spoon. I also had some winter sowing that I just kind of threw here and there because I didn't really know where to put it or how it grew. This is Milkweed Red, and then I've got, I don't know what kind of squash that is. And then I have 2 different kinds of rhubarb. So I have Paragon rhubarb, and then I have Forgotten Heirlooms rhubarb. And they're both looking pretty good. And then I threw something in here. I had an extra of something or other. I don't remember what it was, but I just threw it in here. I just put a big pile of compost and planted it straight in the compost. Things seem to do well with planting in compost. But then here I've got a bunch of different, so in that bed that I was telling you about that had potatoes in it, I decided to grow gourds and pumpkins. So Big Macs, I don't know. If you look at those pumpkins, they're gigantic. And so I don't know if I'm going to get anything from these plants in here, but I'm gonna try. There's different kinds of pumpkins and squash Here's a pink porcelain doll. This one is Jardel. We'll see. We'll see if any of this stuff takes. So this end is pumpkins, and then this end is gourds. So this is actually a squash. This was jumbo pink banana squash. And then right here, I've got gourds. So I've got African drum gourd. Something that pulled that out. This is Wiley Ford. Then I had like a mixed bag of seeds. So I just threw a bunch of seeds in here. So I'm not really quite sure what kind of gourds are gonna pop up, but and I kid you not, that is a potato plant. That is another potato plant. I just keep taking them out of here. That right there, potato plant. I'll get that in a little while. What we got on this side? North Georgia candy roaster again. A boar pumpkin. And then Long Island cheese pumpkin. So just a bunch of different things right here. Okay, so the grow bags on the other side of the potatoes have some different kinds of squash. Not sure, can't remember what I planted there. And then these are my tomatillos. I've never grown tomatillos successfully before. So these are the green tomatillos, and then these are the purple tomatillos. They're not doing great. I'm not sure. Something likes tomatillos because I don't have a lot of pest pressure on anything else, but these got a little sunburnt too, it looks like, but I'm hoping that they bounce back. And then some more dwarf that I just planted yesterday, so they don't look great. Mint streak. What's this one? Tags get buried. Baronia dwarf. Orion's belt dwarf. And then a couple more squash in these to see how squash do in grow bags. So I think that's going to be it for this garden tour. I have my greenhouse. I could do a greenhouse tour. It's full of stuff. I also have a bunch of stuff planted on my deck. I could do a separate tour for like greenhouse and my deck and like my yard. I have stuff planted in my yard as well. Let me know if you're interested in that, but this is like the main garden area. So I'm just going to leave it at that and show you what I have in here. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to know what different kinds of tomatoes taste like, stick around because I will be doing a ton of taste tests. And I think I'm even going to do a series called Tomato Tours where I just tour my tomatoes and show you what each of the varieties look like when they start to flower, when they start to produce fruit. Let me know if you're interested in that in the comments, but I think that's going to be it for this tour. This is going to take me 2 days to edit, but I'd like to get it up by this evening. We'll see. I still have a ton of planting I want to do today too, but until the next one, guys, I hope you all enjoy your day.